Welcome to the CorrVisual A 4.1.3 demonstration video. In this video we will show how to use the CorrVisual A software to communicate with the Corr analyzer. The first step to running the CorrVisual A software is to click the icon on the desktop. Once the software is opened up, you'll be brought to the main menu. In the main menu, we have the Sensors and Measurement Configuration category. That includes the sensor properties, the channel banks for the sensors, the auto mean zero currents, the couple potentials. This is where the probe characteristics can be set up in the CorrVisual A software. Let's begin with the sensor properties. In the sensor properties, we have the ID of the probe, which is the number of the probe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 in this case for a 6-probe Corr analyzer. The names can be changed, so you can highlight and, for example, change the name of the probe. This name will be displayed in the plotting interface once the real-time data is being acquired. The probe density can be adjusted, the equivalent weight, the electrode area, and we can decide whether we want to measure the cumulative depth, meaning the cumulative corrosion depth, whether we want to continue measuring it from a previous run or whether we want to refresh and start all over. A lot of these features will be set by default when the probes are shipped from the factory with your Corr. So most of these things will not need to be changed. However, if you do wish to change these, they can be changed from this menu. To the right is the channel banks for sensors, and what this is this is where we select where the probes are currently connected. So in this case, probe number 1 is connected to channel bank A. So you see a probe here, the checkbox for channel bank A. And we can click on the modify button here to see how many electrodes are currently enabled. So channel bank A right now has a 9 electrode probe, and they can be switched from 9 to 8, 7, and you can change the number of electrodes on each probe here. Hit OK. You can also come here to the B, channel bank B for probe number 2, the second carbon steel probe connected, and also click the modify and change how many electrodes you wish to currently measure. The auto mean zero function is for the net current flow. If there is some sort of offset, this can be set to on to offset the offset from things like cathodic protection. And also you can select what type of reference electrode you're using, or if you're not using one, you can select disabled, as in this case. Go ahead and select disabled for both of these. Here in the bottom now we have the communication port, or data acquisition section of the communication port. This is where the Corr is plugged into your PC via the USB to RS-232 converter. If there is no port name being shown here, you can go ahead and connect the Corr to the PC and click Find COM port, and it will populate a list with COM ports where the Corr could be connected. In most cases, it will automatically select the correct COM port. If for some reason you cannot connect to your Corr, check the drop-down list and see if there are any other COM ports being occupied. The next subsection is the sampling rate interval for each channel. The sampling interval can be set here, which is the amount of seconds that the Corr takes for each measurement point. In this case, we're going to go ahead and put it at 33. So then there is also a meter reading time. This means how many times, if for example this meter reading time is set to the same amount of time as the sampling interval, this means that we will read one time from all the electrodes. If, for example, this is half, if we set this to around 16, then 2 measurements will be taken from each electrode, and the average will be considered for the sampling point for that sampling interval. We're going to go ahead and select 33 seconds so that we take 1 measurement from each electrode for that sampling interval. We can ignore the switch settling time. It will be mostly set from default from the factory. Depending on what unit you have, we can also select the temperature, pH, or ORP electrodes and enable them or disable them. In this case, we only have a temperature probe or temperature input, so we'll disable these. And in most cases, these will be disabled automatically from the factory setup file if your unit does not support them. And these can also be calibrated using this calibrate button. You can either do a 1-point or 2-point calibration for each one of these measurements. The data files is where we're going to save the data that's going to be acquired. So the very first thing that needs to be done before we start a run or start monitoring is we need to go ahead and select a file, a folder to save the files in. In this case, I've already set up a folder, 2014-05-29 Analyzer, and in this folder we can go ahead and select or create a file name, and we'll save all the data in this folder. So we'll go ahead and select that currently created file name. And then here we can select how many lines of data will be saved in each file, so the maximum lines of data in each file. So in this case, before we create a new file, automatically there'll be 5,000 data lines saved in the current file. Once we reach the 5,000 data line limit, a new file will be created. Plot data files is available to plot files that are already on the PC. In this case, it's the same as the CorrVisual Field Monitor software. We can go and find data that's already on the hard drive of the PC. So we'll go to a previous run for the analyzer here and just show a simple data. We can go ahead and select a data file, and the data file shows up here in this window. We have 2 points in this data file right now, and we can go ahead and hit plot data in window, and we can plot this data with a 2-plot setup. So we can select, for example, for the top plot here by clicking the checkbox, we can just plot individual currents, and they're all close to 0, so they're very close to each other right now. Very difficult to see. And then the bottom plot here, we could, for example, plot corrosion current. So this plotting interface allows you to plot files that have already been saved on the PC. You can also reduce the data size depending on the amount of data that you have. You may want to keep 1 point for every 2 points taken to reduce the amount of data points that need to be plotted. This can be done from here, and we can save that data as a new file. We'll get out of here. Now, once we are ready to start monitoring, we go ahead and click the Start Monitoring button. This takes us into the monitoring window. We've already created this file before, so it's asking us if we want to replace this file or if we just want to append to it. In this case, we're going to go ahead and replace this file, so we'll click yes. And it'll ask us again if we want to erase the previous file, and we'll say yes. So I'll make this full screen. So in this window, we have a plot, a visual plot, as well as a chart. In the chart, we have sensors 1 and 2, and it will show the currents for each electrode, as well as the minimum and maximum currents, the mean currents, the LC factor, or the localized corrosion rate, as well as the average current, and the average corrosion rate, and the corrosion depth, average and localized, as well as the potential down here in the chart. This can also, of course, be plotted here in the plotting section. So right now we've gotten our first points. The sample interval is running, so 1 data point has been saved for 2 probes. We can always, of course, hover over these points to see the current data point, see the information about the current data point. You can also right-click to set the scale back. If, for example, if we're zooming in and out with the mouse wheel and we get lost, we can go and right-click the plot, click Set Scale to Default, and that will bring us back to the default scale. So we can select what we wish to plot by clicking the Modify Plot button and coming to the drop-down menu and selecting corrosion rate to change from corrosion current. We also have a variety of options here of different measures to plot here. So cumulative penetration can be plotted as well. Go back to corrosion rate. Hit OK. Also, if we wish to plot the individual currents seen here, we can highlight these individual currents and plot them side by side. Also, the acquisition parameters such as sampling rate can be changed directly from the run. So that can be done in this menu here with the changing of the sampling interval. And the measurement range is normally set to auto, but if you wish to change the measurement range, you can do this manually here too. Most users do not use this button. You can also go back to modify and measuring corrosion rate. We can also add remarks if we're changing solutions. We can also add a remark into the file that says we're changing solutions at this point in time, and that would be saved in your data file for later analysis. So you see that we've just added this test script into the data file. So go ahead and close this. And so down here is the data file name and its location, as well as the current or the initial time at which we started this data run. If you have a temperature probe connected, the reading would be here, pH or PN, whichever the 3 and 4 connections are. They can be a variety of different measurements, voltage measurements. Okay, so there's the basic features of the NanoCorr Analyzer or CorrVisual A software for the plotting features. Go ahead and hit stop. It's going to ask us if we wish to skip the bridging resistance measurement before we quit. In this case, we don't need to measure bridging resistance, so we'll go ahead and click yes. And we'll wait, and it should take us back to the main menu. And once we're back at the main menu, we can go ahead and click Exit Program.